What's up, and welcome back to the Step It Up Entrepreneur Podcast. Thomas Keenan coming at you again with another episode. I've got my homie, Mr. Mike, the gorilla, the ape himself, Claudio, with me. And for those of you who've been listening to this show for a couple of years at this point, this is a repeat guest. Mike and I have done a bunch of episodes together. We've done some Goon Squad episodes in the past, and this is just a gentleman who I've been running with now for a couple of years, and somebody who I just have the utmost respect for multiple reasons. But with that being said, Mike and I are kind of in the same industry, kind of competitors, but kind of not. We help people, we coach people, we consult people. We've got a network and groups that we use to help other people succeed in business. Mike's methodology and style of doing it's a bit different than mine. And I think that's the beauty of it. And it's cool too to see some crossover from one group to the next. But before I get too sideways here, man, thank you for coming on. I know you're a busy ass dude, and you're literally gifting me an hour of your time today, and I just want to say thank you.
No, man, I'm not as busy as I used to be like a year ago, which I'm sure we'll get into over the last 12 to 18 months. A lot's changed for both of us, but I'm still very disciplined in creating boundaries. I think so many people give up their time so easily. And so I'm not gifting it. You earned it, right? Like that. I think this is the part that so many people don't realize is you got to earn somebody's time. Like I actually had someone call me the other day because I got the email or I had the DM. Hey man, I just want to pick your brain. And I had a mutual relationship. So I was like, hey, what's up with this dude?
Yeah.
Right. So first thing I did was qualify him.
Yep.
Right. Has this guy earned my time? This first thing the other guy said is, oh, he's asking you to pick your brain too. And so my immediate response was, I got to teach this guy a lesson.
Yeah.
And he gets on the phone. He's like, hey, man, I'm just trying to get into bigger rooms, get around bigger people. How do I do that? I said, first off, stop wasting fucking people's time. You wanted me to meet you for lunch, which would have been 3 hours. I'm giving you a 20-minute phone call.
Yeah.
But you have no value to bring me. He's like, well, what do you do? Motherfucker, you don't have Google?
Yeah. Yeah. Like you should know that.
I'm like, so you wanted me to get on a call with you to explain you my background.
Yeah. I'm
like, you want to get into bigger rooms? You have to earn your way there. So I say that to say, Thomas, for you and to all of your audience, you want to get around high-performing people. You want to get around people like you and I and get our time. I'm not gifting it. You fucking earned it. You earned it from years of having integrity, years of doing what you say you're going to do, years of living up and setting the standard and being the example for a lot of people out there, learning lessons, rolling with the punches. You've earned it, so you get it.
Yeah.
I'm not charging you for this shit,
Sure.
right? It's not a gift because you wouldn't have paid for it to begin with. But you also don't waste my fucking time.
Yeah.
So I know when you reach out, it's going to be valuable.
Yeah, I think that's a mutual benefit that you and I both have. Look, relationship we've had professional relationships, and we also have a personal relationship, and it's just the way that we operate. Every so often, like for instance, this past Saturday, you slid into my text and said, "Hey man, what's up? You good?" We had a brief conversation, went back and forth. I don't know, 10, 15 minutes. We did what we needed to do. We got the information passed back and forth in an effective, efficient manner, and cool. Here we are today, right? But that's just the way that we operate, and I'm okay with it. I'm also fully aware of your situation for the most part. I don't know all the details because, listen, we don't see each other every day, full transparency.
Yeah.
But I know you got a lot of shit going on. You're a dad, you're married, you got a house.
To stop there. That's not like that. That keeps most people busy. Those two things.
It does. It does. And now you have this thriving company that you've been working your ass off on now for the past, we got to be 4 years now that you've been full-time in WinRate?
Yeah. 4 years full-time, 5 years total.
So, things are finally clicking and really coming together for you and your team. And some of the things that you're doing, even that I get to view from afar, is all right, cool. Homeboy's on top of his shit and he's making things happen. And it makes me feel good inside.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, winners want to see people win, right? I mean, you hear all the time, no one who's winning is going to smash other people, right? Maybe my event had more people than it than you, but I can still be proud of you and happy for you. I'm not going to oh, hey, had more people at my event than you did, sucker.
Yeah.
You're never going to hear that from somebody who knows what it takes to build it, right? And so, winners want to see people win.
Yeah, that's the truth, man. That's the truth.
I mean, it's just a fact.
Yeah.
What I think the other part that you and I have really done an incredible job as just in a relationship as men is we've disagreed in a very civil way, right? We're able to have open, fluid conversation about things that most people can't and just be okay being hey, yeah, that I mean, how many fucking times have I told you something? You're I don't think right now. I'm all right, cool, man. Let's go back to just having another conversation, right?
Yeah.
And vice versa. I'm yeah, man, I appreciate it, but there's some details you don't know about, but let's just move on, right? And we've been able to just like pick up on each other's cues to not push too far and be humble enough.
Yeah.
I don't need you to listen to my opinion. I don't need you to reassure me I got good ideas. If you don't like it, cool. I have limited information based on your whole situation. I'm gonna do the best I can, but I'm not butthurt if you don't listen.
Yep.
I think that's such a big part of people who are out there like spewing their advice.
Yeah.
They're butthurt if you don't listen to them.
Yeah, but on the flip side of that, you and I have both had situations where something goes on. Maybe we see something going on social media wise, this, that, the other thing, and it's pick up the phone, shoot the text, whatnot. And it's like, yo, what are you doing?
Yeah, 100%.
What the fuck are you doing? Like,
Yep.
Fix this kind of deal. And I think that's another layer of mutual respect that we hold for each other that most people can't do. Because I'm telling you from a position of love and care, not like you dumb fuck.
Well, it's like, I want to see you win. And if I see you like walking with your eyes shut into traffic, it's kind of my job as the outside perspective that cares about you enough to say something.
Yeah.
Very few of us have relationships in our life that we can trust to get the truth, the whole truth, not just the part that they think you want to hear.
Yeah.
And that's rare. Like that is fucking rare.
Yeah. It's being willing to have really uncomfortable fucking conversations.
Yeah. And it's always perceived discomfort. I heard someone call it this one time. I did not make this up, but it's like, but basically like riding the bull.
Yeah.
It might have been Brene Brown in like Dare to Lead. But it's like, it's riding the bull. If you can last the first 8 seconds of a tough conversation, it gets easier from there.
Yeah, for sure.
Almost every time. It's the anticipated conflict that ruins a conversation, not the actual conflict.
Yeah. There's also the time delay portion up front. The more time you allow to pass, the harder it gets to have the initial first couple of words or the first 8 seconds.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, because that's when you get in your head. That's when you start doubting yourself and saying, well, what if this happens? What if they do this? What if this situation pops up?
Well, also the longer you wait, the more question of like, well, why did it take you so long to say something?
Yeah.
Right? Because then it has like, well, why are you saying something now, a year later, or 6 months later, or 5 days later? Like, why, you didn't trust me enough, or you didn't care about me enough to say something from the beginning? Just proactive communication is the best strategy, whether people want to hear it or not.
All right, so dive into proactive communication, because I already know for a fact it's one of your core values at the company.
It is.
What does proactive communication mean to you, and why is it so important?
So the best way I've been able to minimize it down into a training tool for my team, right? Because like one of the biggest part, like I'm not speaking to you, I'm speaking to the audience, is like getting the people around you to understand what your core values mean to you, right? Because they're just words to other people, but to you they mean something. And so communicate proactively to me, basically I've boiled it down to one sentence. It is your job to proactively communicate expectations about anything you're doing and then immediately communicate if those expectations are changed. That's it. Like, because there's appreciate everyone's time, which is like deliverables on time, right? But from communicate proactively, it's communicate as fast as possible what's about to happen, and then immediately upon when that outcome, that perceived and communicated outcome changes.
Yeah.
So like, hey, I told you I have this down. I found out today I'm not. I said I'll be there at 5. I'm going to be there at 5:02. Like one of my rules with my sales team when I was running remodeling or the roofing company was the minute you knew you were going to be late, it was your job to send that text message. Right? So if you're in a client meeting and you're running late and you know you have an hour drive and you have 45 minutes to get there, it's your job to immediately communicate to that customer like, hey, I'm going to be there at 5:02.
Yep.
And like people you build so much trust when you're willing to like just do what you say you're going to do, but then communicate if something else is going to happen.
Yeah.
People are so afraid to give bad news. They're afraid to change expectations, but that doesn't mean the expectation didn't change.
Yeah.
But that's what communicate proactively means to us, is like communicate as aggressively as possible and then immediately communicate when expectations change.
Let's shift gears here for a second. You're known for coaching heavily in the service space, business space, construction space. And obviously you have clients who go outside that world too.
Yep.
What's the biggest pain point that you see being repeated by your clientele right now that's basically limiting them the most?
I just think speed of decision-making is like a universal thing. They take forever to make decisions. Like there's nothing new in the industry, right? It's hard to find good help. Yep. It's hard to get, the material pricing is material pricing. It fluctuates all the time. Some things are up, some things are down right now, right? Like access to equipment's kind of the same for everybody. Like most of those problems are just universal. But if I look at the difference between a successful company with the same external influences, such as pricing, headcount, people, vendors, and someone who's not, it typically comes down to how aggressively do they make decisions. And what I mean by that is The people who sit there and have to like strategize out every possible variation of an outcome before making a decision lose every time to the person who like jumps out of the plane and puts a parachute on as they're going down.
Yeah.
Because you don't like, this is the part I think so many people underestimate. This is not just business. It's not just construction. This is life, in my opinion. It's when you're on step 1 and you visualize yourself all the way to step 5, you're not going to know what to do at step 5 because you learn to do on step 5 in step 2, 3, and 4.
Mm-hmm.
But you won't take step 2 if you can't solve step 5.
Yeah.
And I think like that's not construction specifically. I think construction hurts a little bit more than other industries because it's catching up, but it's simply behind on technology, right? So access to information sometimes is a little bit more difficult.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say like delayed decision-making, whether it's because of insecurities, fear, financial constraints, imposter syndrome, anxiety, depression, whatever it is, lack of trust on your team, there's a dozen reasons it happens.
Yeah.
But delayed decision-making is like someone who's slow to decision-making will always get beat by somebody who's faster, even if that first decision is wrong.
Yeah.
Because they learn what they need to learn. I talk about this a lot, and I've talked about it a lot recently because I think people underestimate one of their roles as a leader.
Mm.
One of your primary roles as a leader, whether you're the leader of a family, the leader of a church, a men's group, a women's group, a business, a team, whatever. Your job is to solve the hard problems the hard way so your team doesn't have to. It's your job to find the 99 ways to not do something so that your team understands the one way to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're constantly evaluating market conditions, inputs, outputs, and your job is to create the recipe or the formula that gets the desired outcome. Well, to do that, you're going to find a lot of formulas and recipes that don't work. And so if you're so worried about something not working, you're never going to learn the lessons in those 99 to have the right lessons and knowledge to go to build the 100th one that works.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I think if people would just take faster action, they would learn so much more so faster.
Yeah.
Like if I look at my clients, like same clients, same coach, right? Wild success, moderate success. No one fails around me, but like there's different levels of success. That's not a cocky thing. I've had 300 plus clients. No, you don't lose around. I care too much. Like I'm gonna be on you until you win. If you're like, it's just how it works. But there's different levels of success, right? There's results may vary, and the people who thrive working with me just do what I tell them to do without second guessing it, and they do it exactly the way I tell them to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And then they learn their own lessons by taking the action and then formulating that whatever that thing is to work in their mission and their machine to get their desired outcome.
Mm-hmm.
And like, that's just, I don't know if there's a specific in the business issue right now that's specific to my client base.
Yeah.
I think that's just something that like I see across, you look at the win rate clients that are wildly successful and those that have been around for 3 or 4 years at this point. Like I have some clients going into their 4th year with us.
Mm-hmm.
And those that, don't get the same results, it still comes down to who makes decisions faster.
Yeah, that makes sense. So it's that old adage, just imperfect action. You got to get up and just take some steps daily, man, for real.
But look, I mean, yes, it's hard to find good labor. Yes, there's material pricing volatility. Yes, banks or interest rates are up, which is really impacting the financing side of my industry, right? Because, I have an industry that most people don't pay cash for.
Yeah.
Right. Like the construction space, like most of our clients are in that, what I call investment level projects. Like you're not paying cash.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You're taking a loan on this to get some money to fund the deal.
But like, and so when you got the SBA pushing 9% now, and you got, consumer, percentages up, that's going to have a ripple effect for sure of people just saying, I'll wait till it comes down. Right. It may not, I don't know, but there'll still be plenty of people buying. And what will happen is the top 20 or 30% who've been doing their job, building their brand, building their team, building their core values, building their clear mission will sustain, and the bottom 30% won't.
Yeah.
Because there'll still be people spending money. There's still be people doing projects. There's still be people with needs.
Mm-hmm.
You might have to evolve. You might have to offer slightly different services. You might have to utilize your personnel differently, or you might have to put your skill set to work in a different way. Like you might have to evolve. Mm-hmm. But the top 30% will win, because in every market ever, there's somebody winning.
Of course.
Like that's never changed, right? Yeah. It's who evolves and understands, like what will likely need to happen in my industry specifically is people have to go from high luxury elective work as their primary, the people that do that, to more service, like we'll say non-elective work like restoration,
Mm-hmm.
because like houses are still going to need work. Houses are still falling apart. Houses still have fires and floods, and at some point that high-end luxury market will go down a little bit.
Yeah.
It's also been improperly inflated for the last 2 or 3 years because of how much money got pumped into the economy.
Yep.
But I mean, so it's probably leveling out. It's probably still up from like 2019, but it's going to be down from 2020.
Yeah. Yeah. It makes sense.
So, but those are the people that will survive.
Yeah.
They'll evolve their skill set to solve a more relevant today issue.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because most companies have overinflated overhead right now from trying to hire up to the demand of the last couple of years. Mm-hmm. Either it's inflated in headcount or inflated in compensation because people are paying out the ass to get people the last 2 years.
Yeah.
Well, that works when you're overwhelmed with leads. It doesn't work when you're fighting for every dollar.
Yeah, it's true.
And so there's a lot of employees that are going to get a rude awakening on what their actual value is coming up too.
Yeah.
They're going to get let go and they're not going to be able to go find that 80, 90, 100 grand they were making when they shouldn't have been making 70.
Yeah.
Like that's going to happen too. You're going to see a lot of spending issues because of that. A lot of people built a lifestyle around an inflated compensation rate that respectfully the position wasn't worth. Not they're not worth as a human, but the role within that company, it wasn't worth what people were paying for it.
Mm-hmm.
They were just trying to get or retain anybody. I'm not even going to call it talent. They just wanted bodies. And so people overhired as well as overcompensated. At some point that's going to come back around. And when those people get laid off, the people that got comfortable getting 20 or 30% above market value for a position, and no one's hiring at that rate, you're going to have some rude awakening for people who are holding out for a job paying 80, 90 grand when they're only worth 60 or 70. It's going to be an interesting what happens over the next couple of years, in my opinion.
Yeah, I heard an interesting perspective on a podcast a couple months back. Financial dude came in there and was talking. He was saying the people who typically get hit the hardest are not the low end or low middle class. It's the upper middle class, the dads or the moms who are making 500 grand a year in the household combined. Those are the ones who get hit super hard when we have an economy dip like it potentially may happen in the next couple of months.
Yeah.
It's like you get used to the lifestyle. You got the country club, you got the nice cars, you got the nice house, you got all the amenities and the bells and whistles to go with it. And then all of a sudden your bottom drops out and you've been living paycheck to paycheck for the last 2 years. And now what?
Yeah.
Right. And that's a real shitty situation for those involved.
Yeah. And this is not a season of hiring C-level people.
Correct.
So no, it's a fair point. I can't disagree with it.
Yeah, I agree. Hey, let's shift gears. I always like talking fitness with you. I know you've been doing some work here recently. And,
I have been.
Yep, you changed some things around. Let's backtrack a little bit. You've always been into fitness, health and fitness. You're a strong fucking dude. You and I have been in the gym multiple mornings together, and we always have a good time. And about a year ago, you started prepping for a bodybuilding show, and then you said, "Hey, this is actually not serving me correctly in my life, in my business right now, and I'm actually going to pull the plug." Which is, I respected your decision, but I did not expect to hear that from you because usually you're the guy who just sees things through to the very end, no matter what.
Which was the evolution for sure. So I have been the guy that says yes, overcommits, and then does whatever necessary to execute. Mm-hmm. And almost always the decision to overcommit was directly aligned with my mission. Events, travel, speaking, too many clients, too much content, right? It's I'm over invested in things that I believe are aligned with the mission.
Yeah.
But I also like being challenged. Like I continue to evolve, and like I have a tattoo on my bicep here. It says only those who will risk going too far can possibly find out how far one can go, which means you have to accept the fact that you're going to overstep the line sometimes. And so at the end of 2021, I was incredibly happy with how I looked. So I said, let's fuck this up, right? And so like I gained like 50 pounds of muscle in like 13 weeks. Yeah. Natural. I wasn't doing steroids. I was just eating like a fucking
lot. Yeah. I saw you about 30 days in from when you started, and I couldn't even wrap my arms around you.
I was miserable. I was so uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I came to like the February Flying Friday, and I didn't even fit in the fucking first class seat anymore. But I went from like 235 to 285 in like a quarter, basically. Mm-hmm. Like it was like February, March, April. I think somewhere in there is when I peaked at 285, and then I started cutting. And it was working from a physical perspective,
Mm-hmm.
but the mental toll that the cut was having on me was incredibly challenging.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember sitting down saying, I know I can do this.
Mm-hmm.
I know I have the ability and the mental strength to get on stage in December at 212 and fucking win. I know. But at what cost and what upside? I had to accept the fact, not in a cocky way, but in a part of the equation that, like, I don't need to prove to people I'm mentally tough anymore. Like, I've done that. I don't need to prove to people I'm consistent anymore. I've done that. You know, my brand around those two things, I think, were kind of there, right? So, like, but sometimes, like, your brand does need to evolve from, like, who you were to who you are now. And people need to learn the new version of you, right? Because I wasn't always a disciplined person. You know, I was 330 pounds of, like, minimal muscle at one point in my life. You know, so, like, sometimes you have to show people over long periods of time that you are actually different, right? They have to learn and, like, sometimes that's necessary. So that sometimes that is the desired outcome that's worth it. But I looked at, I've already done those two things.
Mm-hmm.
Winning this competition at the sacrifice of my family, my business, and my mental health, the win wasn't worth that. It wasn't worth that sacrifice.
Yeah.
And it would have absolutely detracted from every real measurable metric of my mission.
Yeah.
My marriage would have suffered. My kids would have suffered. My business would have suffered. My finances would have suffered. For what?
Mm-hmm. For a trophy.
To look good in my underwear on stage? My wife would have sex with me in my underwear no matter how I looked on stage. Well, who am I trying to impress? You know, and so that was a hard decision because of that, because I was known as the dude that follows through, but I'm also known as the guy who tests boundaries. Like, I test my limits.
Yeah.
And I had to recognize the fact that I bypassed my own limit. And so I had to pull back. I had to cut. I had to stop the cut. I still, you know, I'm still not where I was, but I have twice the amount of employees.
Mm-hmm.
I'm making 3 times the amount of money now. I have twice the amount of time with my family. I have half the amount of clients personally.
Mm-hmm.
I have double the events this year that we had last year. I'm traveling literally 1/50th of the amount I was traveling over the last 2 years.
Yeah.
Like, so, like, I made the decision to stop and then got realigned on my primary mission, and the results in every other category measured up to focus.
Yeah.
If I would have pulled back and everything else still failed, that's a fuck up.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That's I backtracked on discipline, or I backtracked on mental toughness, or I fell off, right? I didn't do that. I just reassigned my discipline and attention into different buckets in my life. You know, Tiff and I were talking, like, we've had some rough patches over the last, like, moving was hard, as you imagine. Like, when you moved to Texas, right? Like, your kid, everything about everything changes, right? So there's friction as part of that.
Sure.
So I'm not going to say our marriage is like 100% perfect, but I'll tell you without a shadow of a doubt, since I canceled all my trips when we moved in June of last year, Tiff and I have laughed more together in the last 10, 12 months than we did in the last 10 years. And so, like, it's about what you're measuring. It's about the scoreboard you're comparing your efforts to.
Right.
Right. For some people, it's their bank account. I've never been motivated by money, ever. Which is why, like, I've coached for so long for practically nothing, right? Like, you know, but I don't measure my success on money. And I'm wealthy in a lot of places. In relationships and love and respect and health, you know. And so that pivot of this one thing that I said I was going to do, in order to do it, which I know I could, there's no question, I could, all of these other measurables that are important to my mission would be worse.
Yeah.
And the upside of winning would not counteract the decline in every other category.
Yeah. So you actually looked at it from a data perspective before you made the decision.
100%. I mean, it was a very, you know, I don't make any decisions really ever without some level of contemplating all variables.
Sure.
But that one specifically was hard because it was one of the first times I publicly backed out of something.
Yeah. And you were very public about you actually going in and competing too.
I was. No, I absolutely was. I was public about the gain. I was public about the growth. I was public about how terrible and miserable it was, like eating all that food. And then I was public about why I backed out. Yeah. I did a podcast on it. I didn't hide from it.
Yeah.
But then I look at every measurable that matters to me in alignment with my mission. And I would say pretty much every one of them are in a better spot than they were previous to that decision.
Yeah.
Because I didn't pull back on discipline.
Right.
I refocused my energy. That's why I think so many people, when they say no to something, they go back to nothing.
Yes.
They take action on something, they go back to here. No, I took action on something, decided that wasn't serving me, and pivoted. I moved that attention to something else, not came back to complacency or stationary.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the difference. So, all right, over the last year, bodybuilding show, you dipped your toe in, you said, oh, I gained all this weight, put on some serious size, some serious strength too. I'm backing out. You moved, you got this big ass, gorgeous new house that you're in with the family, which is awesome. I got to spend a couple days there with you. It was fucking dope.
Yep.
And on top of that, physical fitness has always been a real big part of your life for multiple reasons, right? We don't have to dive into all that today. But you set up a badass gym at home too, so you don't have to go anywhere. All right, this is something that I do a little bit of it, but you definitely do it at an extreme level, even compared to me. Not necessarily the working out part, and we talked about this when I was at your house in December of 22. You're at a point now where you do not want to leave your house more than like once a week. So any services that you need done, whether it's massage, chiropractor, haircut, physical trainer, you're actually bringing them over to you. And a lot of people, when they first hear this, I remember the first time I heard that kind of stuff, I was like, what kind of rich asshole does that? And bougie, yeah, I'm with you, bro. But here's the harsh reality, and you and I, we've talked about this on other podcasts too, is like, what you're worth, though. You know what you're worth per hour. And when you can figure out what you're worth per hour, you can also determine if it's worth your time to go out and do all the running around rather than hire someone or bring someone into you. So
yeah, but that's a perspective of, it's more than just what you're worth. It's how effective you are with your time, right? When you were the fatso that was lazy every weekend, you're like, well, I just fucking drive, get my haircut. Why the fuck would I need someone to come here? Yeah. It's because you're not being intentional with your time. So it's you can't understand it until you're prioritizing every minute.
Yeah.
Like we've both been there. Fat, lazy, undisciplined, just I got plenty of time. I'll go get my haircut. Like, when's the last time you were like, I have time today, let me go do something unexpectedly? It's been fucking years since I've said something like that, right? And so I have things I want to, have to, need to do every day. And so you start to learn, like, cutting things out allow you to, like, it's not all of the time I save is strictly monetarily driven.
Right.
It's, well, if I pay someone else to do the lawn, that's 4 hours on the Sunday I can spend with my kids at the park instead of doing the lawn, right? Like, that was a decision I made before I even had money. I'm like, I'm tired of when I first started having kids, I'm like, I'm tired of spending 3-4 hours on a Sunday doing the lawn and missing this time with my kids because I'm still working hard during the week.
Yeah.
And so, like, that was a decision I made a long time ago. Like, that was 3 houses ago.
Right.
But it's just like, what is my time valued at to me? Because time you can't get back.
Correct.
And money's so much easier to make than anybody ever gave me credit. At least that I was around that gave credit for. And so if I can make more money pretty easily, but I can't get the time back, I'll go broke protecting my time 100%.
Yeah.
It's also like, in the grand scheme of things, most shit's not as expensive as you think it is.
It's true.
And I'm not saying that as in because I'm just like stupid fucking wealthy. Like, yes, I am wealthy. I make a lot of money.
Yep.
But most stuff is just not that expensive. Like, if you really wanted certain things, your ability to go create that extra income from doing little shit here or there, like, it's not that hard.
Yeah.
It's just not. Like, I'm going to go to Sports Clips or whatever and pay $50 for a haircut. I have a guy that comes to me for $100. Like, that's it.
Yeah. It's that simple.
Like, it's not that much more.
Yeah.
And, like, if you can't afford a $100 haircut, then you shouldn't be paying $50 for a fucking haircut. Shave your fucking head.
Yeah.
Like, you ain't got, like, that's also part of it. I sacrificed so many things for so many years, and I didn't do these things to have the ability to do these things. That's the part people don't see. They didn't see me driving paid off cars for years. They didn't see me living in a townhouse for years. They didn't see me paying off all my debt for years. They didn't see any of that shit. Right? And so I did a lot to sacrifice short-term enjoyment for long-term success. And what you're seeing now, what people still don't recognize, and they won't, is like, I'm still sacrificing. My sacrifice just looks different.
Yeah, it evolves.
Right? I mean, I'm still living wildly under my means. And that's cool because now I'm investing the way I want. I'm paying down debt the way I want. Like, Like I want to be completely out of debt by 40. I'm 36 right now. Like I want to be like no mortgage, no cars, no credit. No, I want nothing by 40.
Yeah.
And we have a path right now to get us there.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'll be completely out of debt by 40.
Yeah. So let's dive into that for a second, right? Because finances is one of the biggest pain points that I see in my group.
Yeah.
And I'm talking business finances, I'm talking personal finances, and there's always
Money.
overlap.
The fear of money, fear of finances is real.
Oh yeah, and the lack of education, I think, that's given in our society as well.
Yeah,
But,
education and
yeah. Talk to me about finances. Like, what did it take for you to get your house in order in the financial department in order to get to where you are today? Like, what did you do to educate yourself? Who did you surround yourself with to get this knowledge so you can get to where you are today?
So short answer is there wasn't like one person at the beginning. It was just like getting around people who were bragging more about the sacrifice than they were about the success. There's a lot of people like I was thinking like Trevor Cowley, for instance. He was always talking about what he wasn't doing more than what he was doing. Right. And so like you start getting around people that start like celebrating. So this was a mindset shift that I had. I don't know if I heard this from somebody. I know I didn't make this up myself, but it's like the same elimination of enjoyment right now, whatever that is, the thing, the event, the drinking, the travel, the house, the cars, that elimination of short-term enjoyment can be looked at like a sacrifice or an investment. And that mindset shift for me, and I can't remember where I heard it. I mean, I definitely got it from somebody else. But it was like, if I look at not buying a car right now, if I look at it as a sacrifice, I'm pissed off by the car I have. If I look at it as an investment in a future win, I'm excited about it, right? Because you typically want to make an investment you're excited about, right? Like you don't want to go invest in something you're not excited about. So like living in the townhouse for as long as I did, as much as I fucking hated that townhouse, you know I did. I hated it, but I loved what it represented. It was an investment in this house because I couldn't picture this house when I was living in that investment. And so what I think the biggest mindset shift by being around people of real like levels is, the amount of people that in day-to-day life talk about what they have as their measurement of success or cool or influence or authority. And you get in certain rooms where people are starting to like kind of celebrate the investments they're making in the future, i.e. eliminating short-term like joy or gain for long-term success. You start to not feel as stupid by it. Like when we sold the house and moved to the townhouse, like everybody around us thought we're making a terrible decision.
Yeah. So hold on. Backtrack there. I think the listeners need to understand this point that you need to make, right? So talk about you getting rid of one house and moving into the townhouse, and also give the timing of it too.
All right. So Tiff and I, we started like planning and visualizing like early. We sucked at it, but we've been doing it for probably like 8 or 9 years now. And so we got married in 2012. And like by 2015, we were tired of running the rigmarole, living paycheck to paycheck, right? Like we were probably making $200,000-$300,000 a year as a couple, like with never anything to show for it. We're like, we could do this better. And we started looking at, well, what does better mean to us? And I don't know how we knew to ask that. I had not been around this yet, but it was just like, I knew enough from sales because I was a sales and sales leadership that like, you have to have a measurable target. You can't just say better. Okay. Like I'm going to have better sales this month. The fuck does that mean? Right? Like, no, like, what are we going to do? Right. And so I knew enough from that environment in corporate America that like better had to have a some sort of reference. We started talking like, well, what do we want our lifestyle to look like? And early on, the list was very short. And one of the biggest things was Tiff graduated college with a substantial amount of student loan debt. And so one of the first things that went on the list is we want to be out of student loan debt.
Yeah.
And so when she turned 30, which was in 2019, I took her to Napa Valley for a week for her birthday. And I'm not going to say it sucked, but we learned a lot about what we value on that trip. And we went to a 3-star Michelin restaurant, and we spent $2,000 we didn't have on a meal that was supposed to blow our mind. And we sat there the whole time just being like, I wish we were at like Five Guys right now. Like, we're not even enjoying this. Like, the food was incredible and memorable, but it was like, this is not who we are. And that really was like this. That was supposed to be the trip. That was like it. Like I think we spent like $10,000 on that trip, which is the most I ever spent on a vacation my whole life. That was supposed to be the epitome of success, and we were not happy. We weren't miserable, but what we were recognizing is what do we value?
Yeah.
And so we looked at our life, and on this trip, we like recognized a few things. We say we want to be out of debt, her student loan debt, but we're not actually doing anything about it. So start looking like, what can we do? And I'm like, look, well, the business is doing this. Like, I'd love to be able to like invest more into growing the company, which means we need to live ideally on your income. Well, we can't do that with, like, we were spending like almost $3,000 a month just on student loan debt.
Yeah.
It was a fucking ton of it. Well, what can we do? If this is, it came down to, and this was like, it gives me chills just saying that. If you say you want it and you're not doing everything to get it, you don't really want it.
Mm.
We had this list of what our lives could look like one day, but we weren't doing everything we could to get it. It was a huge, like, we literally decided on that trip, we looked at our life, and we had like a 3,200 square foot house on a half an acre with a big, beautiful backyard, a covered porch. Like, it was a really, really nice house. And we had a ton of equity.
Mm-hmm.
On that trip, we decided, well, we have like almost $200,000 in equity. Why don't we sell the house? And in that moment, we said we could take that $200,000 and put it down towards a dream house, quote unquote, or we pay off the debt. We looked at each other, we pay off the debt. And in that moment, it became a non-decision. If we say we want these things in our life, then we have to take these actions. We don't have a choice.
Yep.
Or we're hypocrites to our own dreams.
Mm-hmm.
And so the minute we made that decision, it went from the house that was our first house together that both our sons were born in. The business had just started. I have a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old. And I'm like, why do we need 3,200 square feet? Those sons of bitches are never more than 3 feet fucking away from me. They're always right there. I don't care if I'm in the shower, I'm taking a shit, I'm trying to eat breakfast. Those motherfuckers are right there.
Yep.
Why do we need all this space? We don't.
Mm.
We said, we'll sell it. And like, I'll never forget, like, we sold the house, got the, it was like $189,000 deposited into our account, and we spent every fucking penny of it in 30 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Paid this off, paid this off, paid this off, paid this off. We paid like $200,000 worth of debt off like that. And then we bought a townhouse.
Mm-hmm.
And we went from like 3,200 square feet to like 2,200 square feet, no yard, no nothing. And we were like, this is the investment we're making so that we can live off Tiff's income.
Yeah.
So that I can go give everything I want into the business. And then fucking 3 months later, COVID shows up and I lose everything. If we would not have made that fucking decision, I would have went bankrupt.
Mm-hmm.
That's not an exaggeration. Like, I went from making money to losing $5,000 to $10,000 a month overnight.
Mm-hmm.
Over fucking night. You were there. You watched it all happen.
Yep. That's why I asked. That's why I wanted you to get into this.
If we would not have made that decision to prioritize our dreams over the opinion of everybody else, including us.
Yeah.
That was the trick. Is do we really want new cars right now, or do we want to be out of debt? Because what do we really want? We really want to be out of debt. Well, then I can drive this car. There's nothing wrong with this car. I don't fucking work out of my office at home. I don't even need this. I dropped my office that I was working. I started working from home. Like, we made every investment, AKA sacrifice, in order to build what we wanted our way. And, you know, one thing led to the next. The business grew. Lifestyle grew. We said we'll be here for 2 to 3 years. We're there for like 2.5. And the crazy thing is, like, this is nuts. The timing of it all, right? It's amazing how the universe delivers when you grasp your dreams when it shows it to you. This is the part that I think a lot of people underestimate. When you say you want something and the universe puts it right in front of you and you hesitate to grab it, the universe doesn't believe you anymore. It'll stop bringing you what you want. And so when we bought this house, we were not prepared to move away from Charlotte. We were not prepared to spend the money we spent on this. But we had a vision board. We had a vision board we built over the last 3 years of what our ideal life/house would look like. All of it. Bedroom, style, colors, backyard, front yard. Like, we had pictures on this board. We took a refrigerator box and turned it into a vision board. We looked at it every day. We added shit to it as we thought about it. And when we came to look at this house, it checked almost every box.
Yeah.
And I remember looking at Tiff, because we weren't prepared to move 2 hours away. But I'm like, this is what the universe is delivering to us because of the investments we've made for the last 3 years. We have to buy this house.
Yeah.
We have to at least try to buy this house. And it worked out. But that decision to move in that townhouse as a business owner who was presenting himself as a really good business coach, I felt like such a fucking imposter most days. I'm like, I almost like hid the fact that I was living in a townhouse, because like, what successful business coach lives in a fucking townhouse? And like, none of my clients cared. They just wanted the fucking advice, right? Because the advice works. Like, I'm good at what I do, and I know that much.
Yeah, you resonate with me.
Clients didn't care.
Yeah,
but my opinion of the audience mattered probably more than it needed to, but it did.
I want to share something here real quick because it's important, because I feel you, and I don't think I've ever shared this with you. I felt the same way at my New York home. Okay, I lived in a 2,400 square foot house, and the house was built in, I think, 1961. The original kitchen was still in that house when I sold it.
Did you even fit in it?
You're
How
such a
they
kid.
made them as big as you back in
Yeah.
61?
But my point here is, like, I was very cautious and conscious. So if I was recording a video in the house or taking photos or putting stuff online, I would refuse to have the ugly ass old brown fucking stale looking wood cabinets in the background. Right. And the other rooms in the house had been redone, or I had redone or repainted or put new molding up while I was there. But that kitchen was one of those that, like, I just never had the budget to go do it. And I never changed it.
You waited for the cost of construction to come down one day?
No, I said this is gonna be the next person's problem, not mine. But that right there was imposter syndrome for me, because I'm in the same situation. I'm over here coaching at a very high level. I got a bunch of people who make more fucking money than I've ever seen in my life, who are
Yep.
coming to me for perspective. And I got this shitty ass looking old kitchen over here. Right. So I wanted to basically make a point here on the episode. Like, you faced that, I faced that. And then if someone's listening to this, I'm sure they faced it, or are possibly facing it now. Like, that's fucking cool. It's okay. It's part of it. Like, don't be ashamed of it, and don't let that hold you back.
Yeah, it's the chip on the shoulder of the townhouse actually made me want to sacrifice / invest more. Because, like, if I'm gonna fucking live here, I'm gonna do everything right. Because I want to get out of here as fast as I possibly can to the step that I want next,
Yeah.
right? And so the chip on my shoulder about the property actually forced me to make other decisions more intentionally as well. Because we had plenty of fucking money. I mean, I was making, like, our overhead was like maybe $7,000 a month as a family. I was at that point, I was probably doing 30, 40 grand a month. And, like, I still lived at that level. I'm like, I'm not spending a fucking dime. We didn't go on a vacation that year. We didn't buy new cars that year. We didn't do shit. Because I was like, if I'm going to make this sacrifice and dislike being here, I'm going to do everything I can to get out of here when the time is right.
Mm-hmm.
And it worked.
It did. And then when you actually did pop the cork out of that motherfucker, I mean, you went car, car, car. You know,
I
toys.
told you for 2 years,
You did.
once it starts, it's going to look like I won the lottery.
Yes.
Do you remember me saying that?
You did.
I said it, and I wasn't joking.
Yeah. So give me the lineup. So what was the first purchase?
So do you remember the Jeep in the car story?
Yes.
So it was like, I think I even called you, like, dude, I think I just need to do something for myself. I'm fucking dying over here. So it was probably like, we were probably in the townhouse like a year and a half, and I was driving a paid off like old Suburban, and I really wanted I really wanted a sports car, muscle car, and, like, I had it on the vision board for a while, and I was looking for, like, different styles. I ended up settling on, like, a Hellcat, Dodge Hellcat. And so when I made the decision to do it, I called my guy, like, buddy was a GM of a local dealership. I was like, hey, that's what I'm looking for. He found, like, the next day. I want to say it was the end of March, because I remember signing the papers at the end of a quarter, because it was the last day of the quarter. And so this is where a vision board comes in, and, like, being willing to make the decisions, right? So I had the car. Tiff had a Jeep, like a 4-door lifted Jeep on her vision board. And they were like this slate gray colors and, like, this gunmetal, like, really dark gray. And so I go to the dealership to sign for the car, and the car wasn't there. It was getting delivered. But they wanted to sign on the last day of the quarter for, we just know in sales is a big deal.
Sure.
So I pull into the dealership. Like, he calls me at noon. I'm there at like 1:30, like last day of the quarter. Pull in, and sure as shit, parked right in front of the fucking dealership was Tiff's Jeep. Like, the color, the look, the wheel size, the wheels, the tire size, 4 doors, hard top, like, it was everything. And I remember sitting there going, if you say you want it, you got to be willing to do everything to get it. And so I bought both cars that day. I remember sitting down and I said, I'll take that one too. And he went, what do you mean? I'm like, I'm going to sign for this car, and I'm driving out of here in that Jeep. And we knocked it out right there.
Yeah. That's fucking, like, what was the internal feeling that you had? Because, I mean, look, let's be real here for a minute. Okay. You walk into a dealership to buy a car, and I know what those cars go for. Okay. It's almost a 6-figure car. Right. And at the same point in time, you sit down at that table, you're like, yeah, I'm going to take that one too. And the guy looks at you a little funny, thinks you're bullshitting, and
He
then all
thought
of
I
a
was
sudden
joking.
serious.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah,
Right?
no.
And now when the transaction actually goes through, I mean, you must feel like your dick grew 3 feet.
Honestly, like we had made so many decisions in alignment with what we really wanted.
Yeah.
To see that Jeep that matched her vision board Jeep perfectly.
Hmm.
I just felt like I was doing what I was supposed to do. It felt cool to be able to do it, right? Like, because I'd never bought a new vehicle before.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, so it felt cool to be able to do it. But I sat there and just felt in alignment. I don't know another way to say it. Like, this is just what I'm supposed to be doing right now. I didn't feel cool. I didn't feel like a baller. I just felt like, yeah, I want that one too. And like, I'm not joking. Can we just do this, please? I felt kind of annoyed that they thought I was joking, honestly.
Yeah.
And so I just did it. And I'll never forget. I have the video still. I drove that Jeep home and surprised Tiff with it. I have the whole thing on video, and I'll never forget that moment. Because she said, "Babe, you've been working your ass off. Go get the car."
Mm-hmm. And you brought her.
I came home with her Jeep, and she didn't know it was coming. And it's like one of my favorite memories ever.
Yeah.
You know, but then we got the truck because we had the camper. Because we didn't take a vacation at all the previous year. We bought a camper and stored it in Myrtle Beach.
Mm-hmm.
Campers are way less expensive than I thought they were.
Yeah.
The cheapest fucking vacation you can have. We went there a lot because it was like, it was like $100 a month to own a camper.
Yeah.
And so we had the camper. We couldn't move it because it was too big for the Suburban. So like the camper just sat in Myrtle Beach.
Yeah.
So the next, we were camping and I found the F-250 King Ranch I wanted. So I drove an hour to a dealership, bought it. Mm-hmm. Traded in the Suburban, and that was it until this past month. Again, vision board. Mm-hmm. So last year we said, we got to keep dreaming bigger, right? And we're like, we have the truck, we have the fun car, we have the Jeep that we like taking the doors off. We don't really have a good like road trip car for the kids, right? Because like driving a lifted Jeep sucks.
Yeah.
The truck doesn't have a lot of storage, right? So like we need a road trip car. Mm-hmm. I was like, cool. We started looking at like Range Rovers and G-Wagons, and we're like, we really like the King Ranch. We wrote down Ford Expedition King Ranch version, which like I didn't know was a thing. Mm-hmm. I was like, if they have an Expedition in the King Ranch version, like that'd be it. Sure as fucking shit. Tiff takes the truck to the local dealership here by the new house to get the oil change. Parked out front is a brand new fucking 2023 Ford Expedition King Ranch in white. Mm-hmm. Exactly what we wrote down in October.
Yeah.
And Tiff knows the rule. Mm-hmm. If it's written down and it's presented to us and we can do it, we have to do it. Mm-hmm. Motherfucker went to get an oil change, came home with a fucking car. And so now we have four. We talked about it. Do we sell? Because we have two of the cars are paid off, the truck and the Expedition we financed. So we're like, do we trade a car in? And I really thought about it because like I don't drive the Challenger as much. It's my fun car.
Sure.
Date night, weekends, occasionally. And I'm like, no, that's our fun car. With this, we basically took we took the top and the doors off the Jeep. If we can't drive it without the doors and top on, then we're driving the Expedition. Mm-hmm. So now we have, and it's funny because the Expedition and the King Ranch and the F-250 match, and the car and the Jeep match, and it's just like, yeah, I got 4 fucking cars. I have a 5th car that one of our employees drive. Like 3 of them are paid off, 2 have payments just because. And I'm like, no, I didn't say I wanted an Expedition to get rid of one of my other dreams, so we're gonna get it. Yeah, and I'm gonna go sell a client and fucking make it work.
Yeah, that's the big lesson right there too. A lot of people are like, "Well, it's either or. Like, go and pick one. Like, why can't it be and?"
Right.
And that's exactly what you guys are doing.
That's exactly what I said. Like, why do I need to turn something in that I want to get this? I don't have to. But I made the same decision with the pool last year. Like, I'm not really proud of this. This is not a brag. I wildly overspent on a pool. Like, 2022 was not the year to build anything.
It's coming from a construction coach, by the way.
Right. It's just not. And like scope creep became very real. Like I just decided, like after I signed the contract, I decided I was only going to do it the way that I'd be proud of doing it.
Yeah.
And I think we spent like $300,000 between pool, landscaping, pavilion, fire pit area, fence, like all the shit. So we put turf around everything. Like I think I spent around $300.
Yeah.
It's gorgeous. And even that now is like, I wish I would have done more. Like, I wish I would have like added this or done that. Like, and so it's like, stop negotiating your standards. Like, if I have to leave this episode with anything is like, at this point, my imposter syndrome is somewhat gone for one very, very, we'll say 2 primary reasons. One, I stopped negotiating my standards with anybody or anything in my life. It's either going to live up to what I want it to be or need it to be, or it's not going to be around. And that doesn't mean I want you to fail. It just means you're just not welcome at my table anymore. And 2, I got very, very, very comfortable with what I do and don't know. I'm not afraid to say I don't know an answer to something. So if you're not afraid of what your weaknesses or failures or shortcomings are, what do you really have to be afraid of? Nothing.
Yeah.
You have nothing to fear. I have zero doubt, and very, very, very rarely do I feel fear anymore. Because worst case scenario says, I don't know, and I fucking walk the fuck out. Like, what's worst case scenario?
Yeah. Or you go to that thing called Google and you do a little bit of research.
When you can become comfortable with what you don't know, what you do know actually becomes more powerful because people actually trust you more. But also, you're not afraid to walk into any situation and just be yourself.
Yeah.
And that's such a powerful version of anybody.
I agree.
And so, yeah, I have 4 cars. I spend over $250,000 on a pool. I live in a $1.2 million house, and I'm just fucking getting started. And I'm cool with that.
Yeah.
But I'm good right now. Right now, one of the biggest challenges Tiff and I have is we're having a hard time dreaming bigger.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we both know, Thomas, like, if you can't dream bigger, you're going to get in a rut and you're going to get stuck. And right now, like, having the 4th car was one of those, like, dream bigger in October, and fuck, here we are in March and we got it. Shit, now we got to try again.
All right, so what's the game? So this is a great segue. We'll end on this. We got a couple minutes left here, right? What is the game plan? How do you and Tiffany go after growing or thinking bigger? You're getting around different people. Are you intentionally getting into different circles? What does that look like?
So right now, I like, after, like, leaving Apex and getting really focused on WinRate, I haven't found another room to get into. I did have a coach for the last year. His name's Cody Jefferson. He's been awesome. He was he was very expensive, like, for me at least. It was a stretch. I mean, it was a 5-figure a month contract.
Yeah. But
I learned a lot, and he helped me evolve as the CEO. But I have a vision board here. My new vision board is here on my computer screen. It's on my background. I look at it every day.
Yeah.
And so Tiff and I went away to the mountains in, like, February, I think, and rebuilt our vision boards. And I'll tell you, it's like, you can actually buy vision board books on Amazon. I don't know if you know this. If you search, like, men's vision board books, it's like books of just images and words and shit. And so my strategy has always been flip through the book, and if something triggers you, cut it out, even if you don't understand why.
Yeah.
Because your mind tells you. Like, don't cut out things you think other people think are cool. When you're flipping through the book, if it triggers you, cut it out. And I substantially, like, all the pictures I cut out were around 3 things. It was around family of choice and gatherings. It was about enjoying the body I live in. And it was about travel. So it was substantially more about lifestyle than it was things.
Got it.
So this next accomplishment is, like, I'm learning to play guitar right now. I'm teaching myself how to play guitar this year. Like, I want to play around a campfire with the kids. I want to drink good wine. I want to have family gatherings. I want to pray more. I want more date nights. I want to sleep better. I want to meditate more. I this one picture stuck with me a lot. I'm creating a body I enjoy living in. I've never once attempted to have a body I actually enjoyed living in. I always wanted to look a certain way, right? Never feel a certain way.
Yeah.
And so now I'm focusing more on just enjoying this shit, right? And then some investment stuff, like travel and investment stuff. Like, we definitely want to get a mountain house at some point. Like, we like getting out of our routine.
Yeah.
No matter how nice your house is, no matter how much you never want to leave, you still need to break the monotony sometimes.
Bingo. Yeah, I agree with that.
So getting some investments and flying privates on there as more a lifestyle. Like, I don't want to own a jet. I just want to fly private.
Sure.
Fuck everything else.
Yep. I'm with you there, brother.
Yeah.
There. Hey, man.
Cool.
Thank you. This is awesome.
You're welcome.
Yeah, we got some good perspective.
Oh, it's always so much fun.
We always have good talks.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, you know what? I think it's important that people know, like, the conversation that you and I just had here was not put on for show. This is
that's a normal conversation.
This is a typical conversation for us, even when we're face to face.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
for sure.
I appreciate you, man.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, I'll get this out to you when it's all wrapped up. Oh, hey,
good.
The old podcast end. Where can we find you?
Just MikeClaudio.com.
There you go. Keep it simple.
Yep.
Thank you for tuning in to the Step It Up Entrepreneur Podcast. Make sure you head over to stepitupentrepreneur.com and make sure you subscribe so you never miss an episode of the Step It Up Entrepreneur Podcast.